registered dietitian here, Kara Corey, and I am back to bring you another dietitian talk today. I'm back with popular demand. I know you guys seem to really like these videos, so I'm trying to do them more consistently. And today the topic that I'd like to discuss is high fructose corn syrup. So this is a very complex topic. It's complex in terms of the studies that are out there. You can Google search it and get so many different mixed messages about what's really the truth with high fructose corn syrup. So that is the topic I'm going to discuss today, and as always, give you my bottom line information as a registered dietitian. As always, please share this video with others if you think other people will find it helpful. It helps me out and my channel to show some support, and please share through other social media sites. So let's get right into it with high fructose or fructose corn syrup. This is a topic that, let's see, I've been out of college now for about seven years. I've been out of grad school for about 7 years. And this topic was highly talked about when I was in grad school. I majored in nutrition science for my master's degree, but I heavily focused on exercise science and those types of things. So this was a topic that was talked about quite a bit, and actually one of my instructors was heavy into the research for fructose. And at the time, you know, as a dietitian, I heard the new studies, the new information that was coming out. It's bad. Direct links with obesity. That was kind of the big hit at the time 7 years ago, was the direct links with obesity. And you know, I bought right into it. I was like, oh shit, that ain't good, you know? What are we gonna do? High fructose corn syrup is in everything. But rewind 7 years later, I know a little bit more. I think we all know a little bit more about high fructose corn syrup, so my mind has shifted in terms of what my thoughts are on this. And I think most of the dietitian community will probably agree with me. But again, it's one of those topics, I can't stress it enough. You're gonna get different answers, different information based on the different people you speak to on this topic. So first, let's get into what is high fructose corn syrup. So high fructose corn syrup is a syrup that's derived from glucose and corn. It's derived from an enzymatic process where they heat it, and it makes this syrup that is just as sweet as a table sugar, but much cheaper. It's much cheaper because there's agricultural deals, or however it works with corn and the farmers, so they can get huge discounts on this product. Anything that's corn derived can typically be very cheap. This is a great product to have for food marketers in the industry because it's cheaper. It helps preserve items much longer, so it's very shelf stable, being a preservative. And like I said, it's very sweet, and it mixes and blends well with many different products. So you'd be surprised if, you know, you guys haven't already looked at the products that you'll see that actually have high fructose corn syrup in it. I mean, I think most of us know it's in things like soda. That's an obvious one, but it's also in several of your sweets products, your baked goods. It can be in things like ice cream. It can also be in several of your condiments, ketchup, barbecue sauces, and it's even in things like breads. And I think that's the most surprising to people, is that a product like that would be in bread, but you'll even find it in those types of items. So you kind of have to really be looking at the ingredients to know whether it's in a product or not. High fructose corn syrup is a product that actually has not been on the market that long. It came out in about the 1960s, actually in Japan, and made its way over into the US around 1970. And the reason why I think that's so interesting is because of the correlation that's out there with obesity. If you think back to the 1970s and when the obesity epidemic kind of started trending upwards, a lot of shit changed in our society from 1970s on. And for the most part, obesity is really a multifaceted disease. It's hard to link it to just one direct cause. But so it's interesting to me that that's when high fructose corn syrup did come around, 1970. So it's still fairly new, and if you think about research being now in 2014, that only gives us about 40 years of a product being on the market, depending on when things started being researched. There's not enough evidence right now for a lot of the claims that are being made against high fructose corn syrup. There are two different types of high fructose corn syrup, just so you guys know. There's different strengths. One's high fructose corn syrup 55 and one's high fructose corn syrup 42. So there's two different strengths there of the fructose glucose ratio. So the 55 is a higher ratio of the fructose to glucose, and that's what you typically see in your soda or sugar containing beverages, whereas the 42 is what you see in more of like your baked goods and breads, cookies, crackers, all that kind of stuff. So part of the claims, like I mentioned, against high fructose corn syrup are that it's linked to obesity, that it messes with your ghrelin levels in your body, that it reduces your insulin production, several other claims made against it, probably too many to even get into in one video. And again, let me kind of preface going into this by saying I'm trying to present the information to you guys based on what I've reviewed via peer-reviewed scientific evidence and studies and research that I've looked at. So I'm just kind of laying it out there for you. I am by no way saying go out and eat as much high fructose corn syrup as you want or can. Use your own judgment and just kind of take what I'm saying and use it as best as you can. Part of what I thought in my head as I was researching this topic, because I had to go back in and do some research before I brought you guys this video, was truly what is the difference between table sugar or other sweetened, other caloric sweeteners I should say, versus high fructose corn syrup. And does your body really know the difference? I think that's the main question that's out there that people wonder and debate. So what is the difference between sugar and high fructose corn syrup? Does our body know a difference? In terms of comparing table sugar to high fructose corn syrup, as I mentioned, they are both a combination of glucose and fructose. Table sugar, you do have to digest that product first before you metabolize it, whereas high fructose corn syrup, it's already all blended together, this nice blend of fructose and glucose. So you don't actually have to digest it, your body goes straight to metabolizing it. With that said, your body does use the same metabolic pathway to metabolize fructose, whether it's the table sugar or high fructose corn syrup. Our body metabolizes it the same exact way. So because with high fructose corn syrup you don't have to go through that digestion process, like I mentioned, some of the claims are that it spikes your blood sugar higher, you don't produce as much insulin to react to the high fructose corn syrup. And truly, as of right now, from what the research has shown, there is not much of a difference between the way table sugar and high fructose corn syrup react in our bodies. And that's kind of my bottom line here. So far, with all the research that's out there, as complex and complicated as it is, there's nothing really showing that there's a big difference between having regular table sugar versus the high fructose corn syrup. The research doesn't support the changes in leptin or ghrelin. It doesn't support the changes in insulin. Right now, they're both basically metabolized the same way. So the verdict is kind of, it's not that it's out, they're both kind of the same in our bodies. Our bodies don't necessarily know the difference. And some people may disagree with that. Like I said, the research is really confusing and there's not enough of it yet. This only came about in the 1970s, and truly there's definitely a lot more research that's going to come on this topic. So there could be more information in the future, but right now that's basically the bottom line in terms of metabolizing it. In terms of high fructose corn syrup and obesity, I kind of already touched on it a little bit, but again, there's no direct evidence right now in the research that high fructose corn syrup is linked to obesity. Like I said, it's obesity is a multifaceted disease right now. There's not one set thing that causes obesity. I mean, obviously people are trying to find the cause of it, and we're trying to tease through all the issues, but it's my belief as a dietitian, it's not just one thing that's making someone obese. It's not that one person ate too much high fructose corn syrup and now they're obese. I don't believe the human body works like that, and I don't think that our diets work that way either. There are too many factors that influence our body weight. And if you think back, like I said, to the 1970s, a lot of shit has changed in 30 years. Our diets, yes, they've changed. Our lifestyle has changed. People are more stressed out. We multitask more. We spread ourselves thin more. The environment's changed, the toxins, the pollutants. There's just so many things that have changed the past 30 to 40 years that I don't think you can directly link one product in that way. Now that I've talked about the fact that high fructose corn syrup's not metabolized any differently and it's not directly linked to obesity from what we've seen in the research, doesn't mean it's good for us or it's natural, quote unquote. One of the things that came about when high fructose corn syrup started becoming in the media a lot more is the corn people, I don't know their real name, the corn people started doing a ton of advertisements, and I'm sure many of you remember the commercials, really trying to kind of backpedal and be like, you know, there's nothing wrong with high fructose corn syrup, there's nothing wrong with these products, they're natural, they're good, they're, you know, natural was the big word they were kind of promoting to basically help, you know, maintain their business and not lose any money in that industry. And the one thing I'll say is definitely high fructose corn syrup is not natural, so I know many people might comment, you know, what about eating things that are natural and not processed and yada yada yada. And of course it's always better to eat things that are, you know, in their whole natural state. High fructose corn syrup is not one of those, but even table sugar, like that's not natural either. So many, that word has no meaning behind it, which I guess could be a whole other video, but you know, the FDA does not regulate the use of the word natural. That is not an approved claim to put on a food product. Doesn't mean you're not going to see it on the food products when you go into the grocery store, so be very careful with the use of the word natural and what products are natural. So my point with saying that is, just because I'm sitting here and telling you that there's no direct links or differences between sugar or high fructose corn syrup, the bottom line overall is that most people do consume too much sugar in their diet. So that's the biggest thing that gets me with people when they're focusing on the nitpicky little details. While it's great, and if you're educated and you have the time to look at those things and be that involved with your dietary intake, kudos to you, that's great. Most people don't. But so I think it's important that, you know, you understand that in general we consume way too much sugar. I mean, we consume, I think, like, I don't know how many percent more than what we really should, but in general, if you're consuming like a 2,000 calorie diet, you should really only be consuming about 8 teaspoons of sugar a day within that diet. Or like if you're a 1,500 calorie person, about 6 teaspoons of sugar a day. It's not a lot. It's not a lot, and there's a lot of hidden sugar out there and products that sometimes as a dietitian I don't even think of having sugar in it. So I really do urge you to kind of take a look at your diet for a few days, and MyFitnessPal will track it for you with the amount of grams of sugar you're consuming. So I recommend you do that and take a look at how much sugar you're consuming on a daily basis and where it's coming from. You guys will be surprised the foods that you eat that contain sugar, and how quickly it racks up. So for right now, what I'm going to tell you guys is to just focus on looking at the whole picture of your diet, looking at sugar, looking at where it's coming from, and those hidden sugars will get you guys, which that can be a whole separate video on how to find those hidden sugars. But in general, I'm telling you right now, don't worry about the high fructose corn syrup as much. Just look at your overall sugar grams, try to keep it low, and you know, you should be all right. So That just about sums it up for me, you guys. I'm sure you guys will generate a lot more discussion below on what you think about this topic. So thank you for checking this video out. Please give it a like and comment below on what your thoughts are.